I feel like this video deserves a special name. Maybe not in the title, but at least, you know, in our hearts. And that title is, well, what did you expect? And this is about a game called Arizona Sunshine. And what did Arizona Sunshine do, I hear you ask? Well, they decided it would be a wonderful, no, brilliant idea to have hardware exclusive content on the PC. Yeah. It was previously undisclosed exclusive content that was exclusive to the Intel i7. And before you ask, no, this is not a hardware issue as in CPUs under this cannot run this content. It literally is, if you do not have this CPU, you cannot run it even though you'd be capable of doing so. So, let's roll back to the beginning of this interesting story, shall we? As there was 2 pieces of content in the game, and the controversy began with a post on the game's Steam page, asking why one machine that this person owned could play the Horde mode in the single player, and this other machine they had could not. And they said, this being the developer, that the 2 aspects of the game, single player Horde and Apocalyptic mode, which is the highest difficulty, were locked to machines running the i7 chip until March of next year. And the developer, who are none other than Vertigo Games, said, quote, "Working with Intel allowed us to create even more content than we originally planned, including these modes and the physics systems in the game, making Arizona Sunshine one of the richest VR experiences possible. We want to give 5th, 6th and 7th gen Intel Core i7 owners the first glimpse into these additional modes, but they'll be available March 6, 2017 to everyone who owns the game." Unsurprisingly, this didn't go down too well, and many people were pretty pissed off, and understandably so, about this previously unannounced exclusivity of pretty large portions of the game. We're talking the Horde setting and the highest difficulty in the game. So while you can still play the game, this is still content that's being locked off for no reason, really. Now, one of the responses asks, quote, "Thanks for responding, but why wasn't this information released prior to launch? I would not purchase the game in its current state if I knew about this artificial time limitation. I have now no recourse now that I'm past the 2-hour limit for Steam refunds. This is absolutely ridiculous." Now, of course, that's just one of the many pissed off responses, and as I said, I'm completely on the side of the consumers here because, well, it's absolutely ridiculous having a piece of content locked behind what processor you have. And a lot of people point out on the Steam page, and this community thread will be linked below if you want to give it a read, might be humorous, that if this had been clearly advertised on the Steam page saying, hey, this content's going to be locked behind the i7 until X time, they would have been as upset because they would have known from the start, oh, I'm not buying this game then. So they bought the game, perhaps like the person I just quoted, played it for a couple of hours before they realised, and now they literally cannot refund it when they would like to, out of pure principle. Again, this is absolutely ridiculous, to be honest. You should just know. And following the well-deserved outrage from their player base and people who heard about this kerfuffle going on with the game, Vertigo Games quickly unlocks these modes to all players. And, well, awesome, great, good you acted so fast, but it shouldn't have been knocked in the first place, to be honest. It's like, okay, yeah, money from Intel made these modes possible, but you had to have known that this wouldn't go down well because you didn't say on the Steam page. I feel like this all could have been avoided if they just said, these 2 modes are exclusive to the i7 until March the 6th because of Intel sponsored content, blah de blah de blah. And then, again, people would probably still be upset, but they wouldn't be as upset because they wouldn't feel like they were lied to by omission. Now, Vertigo Games were interviewed by Polygon, and I will link their their article in the description below. And they were asked by Polygon whether or not Intel actually provided funding for the game. And Vertigo Games' John Coleman responded, quote, "Yes, there was funding related to the game. That was part of the whole process for us to be able to make this game, as well as their staff time." It's like, okay, partnerships and sponsorships and all of that, those happen all the time in the PC gaming and console gaming space. But again, I think the whole concept of having content from a game locked behind hardware just by itself absolutely ludicrous. But if you're going to do that because Intel helped fund the game, and they want to promote their i7, say it clearly on the page. That, again, I feel like this is the issue. Why people are so upset, because, you know, they didn't realise that huge chunks of the game would be locked off to them because they dared to have an i5 or whatever. Now, as I said, I will give it to Vertigo Games for their swift response to the backlash surrounding this. They did remove it pretty sharpish, and of course you can now play all the modes regardless of your hardware, but again, it should have been there in the first place, and if it was there because of funding, make it clear to people. Again, what did they expect to happen, to be honest? I mean, as I've said before, I find the idea of VR exclusives a little bit silly, considering it's just another method of display, and locking content behind what hardware you have inside your PC is even sillier. It's like, oh, you can't play this game unless you have this graphics card, and that is the case in terms of, like, yeah, you need the power to run it, but that's a bit different than, hey, you can actually run this game, but you can't play this mode because you don't have the super duper expensive, like, 1080 or whatever it happens to be. So, don't do this, and if you have to do this, make it crystal clear to people. And while their game has got mostly positive reviews overall, I think they're not going to do this again because, well, ouch. Yeah. Seems like the game overall is good from the overall reviews. I mean, despite the negative reviews about everything that's happened, the game is still mostly positively reviewed, so it's a real shame that this has kind of hung over the game like a dark cloud. Hopefully they can move past this and repair the damage that they did to their relationship with their community. So, with all that said, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.